It's been one of the most anticipated comebacks in pop. After 40 years, ABBA are finally back with a new studio album.
Benny Andersson was born on December 16, 1946, in the Vasasten district of Stockholm, Sweden. His family was not wealthy or famous, but they were deeply connected to music. His father, Jijda, worked as a civil engineer, yet he loved to play the accordion during his free time. Even more important was Benny's grandfather, Ephraim, who filled family gatherings with traditional Swedish folk songs. For Benny, music was not just something he heard in the background, it was a part of daily life, almost like breathing. When Benny was only 6 years old, he received his first accordion. Unlike most children who might lose interest in a new instrument after a few days, Benny became completely absorbed. Night after night, he played alongside his father and grandfather, learning the traditional tunes of Sweden. These sessions were more than just family fun. They were training grounds. Benny was learning how melodies could tell stories and how rhythm could bring people together. By the time he was 10 years old, Benny had already developed a natural musical ability that would later shape the future of pop music. The deep influence of folk traditions never left him and later became one of the secrets behind ABBA's unique sound. As Benny grew older, his love for music only deepened. Around the age of 10, he moved from the accordion to the piano, and it immediately felt like home. He never took formal lessons, choosing instead to teach himself by ear. He would listen to the radio, figure out the notes, and then twist the melodies into something of his own. This ability to play without rules allowed him to develop a style that was both free and emotional. By his teenage years, he was spending hours every day at the piano, slowly creating a sound that blended folk traditions with the pop music he was hearing on the radio. At just 15 years old, Benny made a bold decision. He left school to focus on music full-time. This was a risky move, especially in Sweden, where education was highly valued. But Benny believed in his talent. He began performing at youth clubs around Stockholm and quickly earned a reputation as a gifted musician who could hold a crowd. Around this time, his personal life also changed when he became a father at just 17. He had a son named Peter with his girlfriend Christina Granville, and 2 years later, they welcomed a daughter, Helene. Balancing music with the responsibilities of parenthood was difficult, but it taught Benny lessons about love, guilt, and responsibility, feelings that would later find their way into the emotional lyrics of ABBA songs. Benny's real breakthrough came in when he joined a Swedish rock band called the ABBA Stars. He was discovered almost by accident during a casual jam session when his talent on the organ stunned the band's lead singer. Soon after, Benny became their official keyboard player, and together they built a new sound that blended rock energy with musical complexity. Their big moment came in 1965 when they performed the song Cadillac on national television. Over 1 million Swedes watched that performance, and almost overnight, the ABBA Stars were nicknamed the Swedish Beatles. Benny, who had once been just another teenager from Stockholm, was suddenly a teen idol. Screaming fans chased him, photographers followed him, and their records sold in the tens of thousands. But Benny was not content with only performing. He wanted to write songs. In 1966, he released Sunny Girl, a song that showed his gift for mixing sadness with beauty. It topped the Swedish charts and sold more than 50,000 copies. Benny had no formal training, yet his songwriting talent pushed Swedish pop music to new levels. Over the next few years, the ABBA Stars dominated the charts, and Benny's compositions became a part of Swedish culture. His ability to create original music, rather than copy British or American bands, marked him as a special talent and prepared him for something even greater. ABBA. In 1966, fate stepped in when Benny met Björn Ulvaeus, another young Swedish musician. Their meeting was casual. They simply sat on a park bench with guitars and began playing Beatles songs. But this simple jam session turned into one of the most important partnerships in pop history. Benny and Björn began writing songs together, and their creative chemistry was undeniable. By the late 1960s, they were producing songs for other artists, experimenting with different sounds, and building the foundation for what would soon become ABBA. They also made a smart business decision early on by launching their own publishing company, Union Songs, giving them full control of their music rights. In 1969, Benny met Frid Lyngsted, known as Frida, during a music contest. They quickly began a relationship that was both romantic and musical. At the same time, Björn was in a relationship with Agnetha Foltskog, a talented singer in her own right. By 1970, the four had begun collaborating on songs, and the magic was undeniable. In 1974, their big break came when they won the Eurovision Song Contest with Waterloo. With that performance, ABBA was officially born, and the group began their journey to becoming one of the most successful bands in history. From 1972 to 1982, ABBA dominated the world of pop music. Songs like Dancing Queen, Mamma Mia, Fernando, and Take a Chance on Me became international hits. Benny, along with Björn, wrote and produced every single ABBA song. His perfectionism in the studio was legendary. He would spend weeks refining melodies and arrangements until every note felt perfect. While other bands often relied on outside songwriters, ABBA's sound was completely their own. What made ABBA unique was Benny's ability to blend Swedish folk influences with pop, rock, and disco. The result was music that was both catchy and deeply emotional. People could dance to it, but they also felt it in their hearts. Benny himself was not interested in fame or the spotlight. While ABBA toured the world and performed in front of huge crowds, he always preferred the studio. He found joy in writing and arranging, in creating something timeless rather than chasing applause. Over time, ABBA sold more than 385 million records worldwide, a number that places them among the most successful acts in history. For Benny, the real victory was not fame but the music itself, songs that continue to be played and loved decades later. Behind the success, however, Benny faced struggles that few knew about. At the height of ABBA's fame, he quietly battled alcoholism. He later admitted that during the band's golden years, he often could not function without alcohol. Every hit, every tour, every award came while he was under its influence. For years, he hid it well, keeping the image of a successful musician intact, but inside he was struggling. His personal life also faced challenges. In 1978, Benny married Frida, but their marriage was strained. Benny found it easier to express his feelings through music than through conversations. And while their love was strong at first, the relationship eventually fell apart. They divorced in 1981, around the same time Björn and Agnetha's marriage ended. These personal struggles seeped into ABBA's final albums. Songs like The Winner Takes It All and When All Is Said and Done carried real pain and heartbreak. Listeners felt the sadness behind the beautiful melodies, and many fans saw these songs as windows into the band's personal lives. In 2001, years after ABBA had disbanded, Benny finally quit drinking and began living a sober life. In 2011, he openly discussed his struggles, admitting that music had often been his way of avoiding painful conversations. His honesty gave fans a new understanding of both the man and the music. After ABBA's breakup in 1982, Benny did not stop creating. Along with Björn, he worked on musicals, the most famous being Chess. Written with lyricist Tim Rice, the musical told a Cold War story through music and produced hits like One Night in Bangkok and I Know Him So Well. Later, Benny returned to his Swedish roots with the musical Kristina Fran Devent, which told the story of Swedish immigrants in America. It became a cultural phenomenon in Sweden and was later performed in New York and London. In the 1990s, Benny formed his own orchestra, BAO, Benny Andersson's Orchestra, combining folk and classical musicians. Their concerts became summer traditions in Sweden, filled with music, dancing, and community. In 2017, Benny released a solo piano album called Piano, which featured stripped-down versions of his work. It was a quiet but powerful statement, proving that even without lyrics or big productions, his music could still touch hearts. Over the years, Benny also received major honors, including a professorship in music, induction into the Royal Swedish Academy of Music, and an honorary doctorate. These recognitions showed that he was not only a pop star but also a respected figure in the history of music. Today, at 78, Benny Andersson looks back on a life filled with both triumphs and struggles. He is remembered as the man who gave the world some of the most iconic pop songs ever written, but also as someone who faced personal battles with honesty. He once admitted that he gave his best words to songs instead of to the people who needed to hear them. Yet through that, he created music that continues to move millions of people around the world. His story is not just about fame and success, but also about resilience, recovery, and growth. Benny has said that in his later years, he feels freer as a musician than he ever did during ABBA. Without pressure, without deadlines, he now plays music purely for himself. Whether it is Swedish folk, Bach, or his own quiet piano compositions, he continues to follow the path that began with an accordion in his childhood home. His journey reminds us that behind every global hit, there is a human story of love, loss, struggle, and hope. And perhaps that is why ABBA's songs remain timeless. They carry not only melodies but the real emotions of the people who created them. What made ABBA stand out from the many pop groups of the 1970s was not just their catchy songs, but also the way Benny approached sound. He was obsessed with creating recordings that felt bigger than life. While most pop songs at the time were simple and direct, ABBA's music had layers, choirs of harmonies, rich string arrangements, and rhythms that blended disco, folk, and rock. In the studio, Benny often experimented with tape machines, echo effects, and multi-tracking to make each song sparkle. For Dancing Queen, for example, he layered multiple piano tracks to give it that floating, magical feeling. He believed that music should feel like a journey, not just a tune to tap your foot to. Björn was excellent with lyrics, but it was Benny who gave the music its emotional depth. Together, they built a sound that was instantly recognizable, a sound that continues to be sampled, covered, and celebrated decades later. This dedication to detail explains why ABBA's records still sound fresh today. Even in a world of advanced digital production, ABBA's music did not fade away when the group split up in the early 1980s. Instead, their their influence grew stronger over time. In the 1990s, bands like Erasure, Ace of Base, and even U2 spoke about being inspired by ABBA's melodies. The arrival of the Mamma Mia musical in 1999, followed by the blockbuster movies, introduced their music to an entirely new generation. Benny often said that what surprised him most was how children who were not even born when ABBA was active could sing every word to songs like Super Trooper or Thank You for the Music. Today, artists such as Madonna, Lady Gaga, and Coldplay openly admit to borrowing elements of ABBA's songwriting style, especially the use of layered harmonies and emotional storytelling in pop songs. For Benny, this was the greatest reward, not awards or record sales, but knowing that his music had become a part of people's lives across the world. The fact that ABBA songs are still played at weddings, school concerts, and global events proves that their magic will never die. For decades, ABBA fans dreamed of a reunion, but Benny was always cautious. He believed that trying to recreate the past could sometimes ruin the magic. However, in 2021, the impossible happened. ABBA released a new album, Voyage, after nearly 40 years apart. Benny admitted that it was not an easy decision, but once the group began recording, it felt natural. He sat at the piano, Agnetha and Frida sang, and suddenly the old chemistry returned. The songs on Voyage were not about trying to chase trends or compete with modern pop stars. Instead, they were honest reflections of life, age, and memory. Tracks like I Still Have Faith in You showed gratitude for friendship and survival, while Don't Shut Me Down reminded fans that ABBA could still create timeless pop. The album became a global success, reaching #1 in many countries and proving that their music still had a place in the modern world. For Benny, it was both a closing chapter and a new beginning, a chance to honor the past while sharing something meaningful with today's audience. Alongside the Voyage album, ABBA took part in one of the most ambitious projects in music history, the ABBA Voyage concert experience in London. Instead of touring in person, the band used digital avatars or avatars to perform on stage, showing the group as they looked in their prime during the late 1970s. Benny worked closely with a team of digital artists and producers to make sure the project felt authentic. The result was stunning. Audiences could see a lifelike ABBA on stage, complete with a live band, lights, and effects, all while the real members watched proudly from the audience. For Benny, this project was a perfect mix of tradition and innovation. He had always believed in using technology to enhance music, and this was the ultimate example. The show became one of London's hottest tickets, attracting fans from around the world and proving that ABBA's legacy could be carried forward in bold new ways. It also showed Benny's continued willingness to explore, even in his late 70s, rather than simply live off past success. Despite his global fame, Benny Andersson has always been known as a private man. Unlike many celebrities, he never chased the spotlight, preferring quiet time with family, music, and nature. He lives in Sweden and avoids the flashy lifestyle of Hollywood or London. Friends often describe him as humble, funny, and deeply thoughtful. He has said many times that fame was never the goal, it was always about the music. Even at the height of ABBA's fame, he felt more comfortable in the studio than on stage. In interviews, Benny has admitted that he sometimes struggles to express his feelings in everyday conversations, which is why he pours so much of himself into music. His honesty about this vulnerability has made fans admire him even more. It shows that behind the success is a human being who faced insecurities just like anyone else. Today, his joy comes from spending time with his wife, Mona Turklet, whom he married in 1981, and from watching his children and grandchildren grow. His life is quieter now, but the music continues to play every day in his home. As Benny looks back at more than 7 decades of life, he often speaks about the passing of time. He admits that fame and fortune were exciting, but what really matters are the relationships we build and the love we share. In several interviews, he has said that he sometimes regrets not being more present for his family during the busiest ABBA years, but he tries to make up for it now. Music remains his way of processing life, his joys, regrets, and hopes. He often plays Bach or Swedish folk tunes on the piano when he wants peace, describing it as a way of reconnecting with the boy who first learned songs from his grandfather. At 78, Benny knows that he has left behind a legacy that will outlive him. He once said,